and welcome back to Be.Live. Be yourself and live your purpose. It has been a while since I made an episode. I didn't plan to take such a long break. Life just became very busy, and somewhere along the way, I found myself spending more and more time outdoors. I started planting, and then I started learning more about trees, then native Philippine trees, and I learned about the soil, water, making compost. Then I found myself trying to rebuild a forest. So I guess you can say I've been busy going back to nature. And during that time, I started thinking a lot about what I really want to do with the next part of my life. What is my purpose? That sounds like a very big question, but strangely enough, I started finding some answers while getting my hands dirty. We hear so much today about climate change, flooding, extreme heat, deforestation, food security, the super El Nino, water problems. And I hear so many people complain about how hot it is. We complain about flooding. We complain when trees are cut. We complain when development takes over another open space. And I too complain. I complain a lot. But at some point, I asked myself, how long am I going to keep complaining about things I cannot completely control? What is my part and what I can actually do? I can't rebuild the entire planet. I can't stop climate change by myself. And I cannot control what every government, company, developer, or landowner decides to do. So think. But I can take responsibility for the little piece of earth that I can influence. And I think that is where I started to understand purpose in a different way. Maybe our purpose is not always something grand, as I always say. You know, maybe sometimes it's simply asking what I can repair or what can I grow. For me right now, that has become the land. I want to rebuild a piece of earth, plant trees, bring back biodiversity, then improve the soil, hold more water in the ground, create a habitat for birds, insects, and animals. I also want to grow my own food and learn how nature actually works instead of constantly fighting against nature. And I realized that maybe other people feel the same way. Maybe you care about the environment, but you're just too busy. You don't have the time to become a farmer or an environmental scientist. So I understand that. That is why I wanted to bring this conversation into Be.Live. This new series is called From Dirt to Purpose. And I want it to be about small things that normal people can actually do. Not theory for the sake of theory. And not making you feel guilty. Not overwhelming you listeners with 100 environmental issues and rules. I want to look at what we can do with what we already have. Maybe you have a backyard, a small garden, uh, some pots in your balcony or in your school. Maybe you have a farm, even a patch of ground beside your house or your neighbor's house. Because if we keep waiting for someone else to repair the planet, we will be waiting forever. So let's start with something very basic: soil or dirt. We walk over it every day. We sweep it off our shoes, we wash it off our hands, and most of the time we don't think much of it. But the more I work with plants and trees, the more I realize that everything starts with dirt. You can buy a beautiful seedling and fertilize it, you can water it, but if the soil is badly compacted, constantly exposed or eroding, you are or unable to hold enough water, the plant will struggle. So soil matters. And what I find fascinating is that good soil is not made of dead material. Good soil is alive. A handful of healthy soil contains enormous populations of microorganisms. It has bacteria, fungi, protozoas, tiny organisms, and insects. It has earthworms, all interacting. These microorganisms in the soil break down organic matter. They recycle nutrients, help create spaces in the soil where air and water can move. They support plant growth. They communicate with the plant. And there is an entire community underneath us that most of us never see. And once you understand that, you stop looking at the soil as just dirt. You start seeing it as a living system. That changed the way I looked at the land. I even started comparing different areas. Why is the soil under one group of trees cool and moist? And why is another area hard and dry? I started observing why does one part absorb rain easily while other parts of the land immediately floods or sends water rushing away. Then you walk in the forest and you start noticing that the soil in the forest is protected. Soil in the forest is covered with fallen leaves, twigs, branches, and plants. It's covered with decaying material. Nature doesn't normally leave good soil completely exposed to the sun and rain. And nature wastes very little. A leaf falls from a tree, it decomposes. And fungi and microorganisms break it down. Its nutrients slowly returns to the system. When a branch falls in the forest, it becomes a habitat and eventually becomes part of the soil. When an animal leaves their poop or their waste, that becomes part of the cycle too. Everything keeps moving. And compare that with how often we live. We sweep leaves into bags, we throw vegetable scraps into the trash, we remove every fallen branch, and we clean the ground completely. Then later we buy compost, chemical fertilizers, and soil conditioners because our soil needs organic or chemical matter again. And I do this too, I'm guilty. I'm learning too, and I think that is important for this series. I'm not coming here as an expert who has all the answers. I'm sharing what I'm learning while I'm doing it. And when I make mistakes, I want to talk about those things too. Because there's a lot of nonsense out there when it comes to nature, health, and environmental claims. Some of it sounds beautiful, but has very little science behind it. So in this series, I want to stay practical. I want this series to be useful and doable. And there's another reason why I wanted to begin with soil. In Genesis, in the Bible, there is a familiar story that man was formed from the dust of the ground. Whether you look at that spiritually or simply a powerful image, there's something humbling about it. We, man, come from the earth. The minerals in our bodies come from this planet, comes from our soil. The food we that keeps us alive ultimately comes from the soil, water, plants, and the living systems. And eventually, when our life ends, our bodies return to the earth. I don't find that depressing. We spend so much time chasing things, money, possessions, titles, and success. And I'm not saying those are bad, but but we all need to build a life. But eventually, we all return to the same place, the ground. So lately, I've been asking myself, before I return to the ground and die, what am I leaving behind? I don't mean buildings and money. I mean, am I leaving behind something living? Did I improve the soil? Did I create a place where birds could return? Did I make the land healthier? Did I leave, these are the questions, did I leave something better for the next person or generation? That question has really stayed with me. I think this is where our purpose and the earth can meet. You don't have to save the whole world. That's too big. Maybe you can save one little piece of it, 1 square meter, one backyard, your garden bed, a tree, one compost pile, your community garden. And when enough people do that, it stops being small. That is why I want this series to be practical. We're going to talk about soil, compost, trees, water, food, gardening. For this first episode, I want you to do something incredibly simple. Go outside and find some soil and touch it. Look at it. Observe. Is it loose? Is it hard? Ask, look at the soil. Is it sticky? Is it cool? Is it covered with leaves or completely bare? You don't need to understand everything yet. Just notice. That's your assignment. Get some soil and just notice it. Because awareness comes from change. You cannot improve something you never really see. And while you're there, take a few minutes to stop. Think. This is something I think many of us forgotten how to do. We are always rushing. So sometimes we are physically surrounded by nature and we are still looking at a screen. So while looking at your soil, doing your assignment, stand there for 10 minutes. No phone. Look at the ground. Look at the plants. Listen to what is around you. You don't need to do anything impressive. Just be there. You know, when I drive, because I'm aware of nature, I really love looking at the trees and the trees around me and the plants and how, since it's raining, it's so green now and I just feel relaxed. At the end of each episode in this series, I'm going to give you just one simple action. I'm calling it one thing for the earth. For today, your one thing is this. Find a patch of soil and spend 10 minutes observing it. That's all. No shopping, no new project. no expensive equipment. Just look at the soil and ask yourself one question. Can I leave this little piece of earth better than I found it? That is where I'm starting. One piece of land, one tree, one handful of soil at a time. And I hope you'll join me to change the world in your own little way. Changing the world begins when we finally stop complaining and look down and ask what we can actually do. So thank you for spending time with me. This is Be.Live. And in this first episode of our new series, From Dirt to Purpose. In the next episode, we'll go deeper into what healthy soil actually is, what makes soil alive. Until next time, go outside, look down, get your hands a little dirty. This is Rocka Cruz, and you've been listening to Be.Live. See you in the next episode.